Today, we're going to talk about a simple, powerful sequence that can completely shift your relationship with anxiety. We're calling this one the order that changes everything.
So let me just ask you, ever have one of those moments where you're so anxious, so completely overwhelmed, that you literally can't think straight? You know, like your brain just hits a wall? Welcome to Smiling Cottage, and the reason I'm sharing this today is because we've all been there.
Well, here's what I really want you to hear. That's not a personal flaw. It's not you being weak. It is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do for survival. It's just switching modes. And getting a handle on this biological response, that's the key to taking back the controls. So let's really dig into what's going on inside your brain when it flips into survival mode.
Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is this concept called the amygdala hijack. Now, this term was coined way back in 1995, but it's not just some catchy phrase. It's a very real thing that happens in your brain, where your emotional alarm system, the amygdala, basically yanks the steering wheel away from your rational thinking brain. So, let's take a closer look at what actually happens inside your head when this alarm system takes over. And believe me, it is way more dramatic than you might think.
This quote just nails it perfectly. You see, it's not a fair fight. Anxiety doesn't just beat reason to the finish line, it gets to the control panel first and just cuts the power entirely.
A great way to think about this is to imagine your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, as the CEO. It handles all the planning, the smart decisions, the impulse control. But research shows that when you're flooded with stress hormones, it causes a literal chemical disconnection. The CEO is basically taken offline, whether it wants to be or not.
And here's the really unfair part of this whole process. The more anxious you get, the more those stress hormones pump through your system. And get this, those same hormones that weaken your rational brain actually strengthen your emotional brain. It's this vicious feedback loop that works against you right when you need logic the most. And what's so fascinating here is you can actually see that power shift. Your emotional brain, the amygdala, is just screaming at 90%. Meanwhile, your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, is barely whispering at 10. This is exactly why you can't just think your way out of it. The part of you that does the thinking has been sidelined. Okay, so now let's talk about how this hijack actually changes what you're able to pay attention to. Because when reason shuts down, your whole perception of reality changes with it. So on a normal day, your focus works kind of like a big floodlight, you know? It spreads a wide beam, lighting up all kinds of options, different solutions, and new possibilities. You can see the big picture. But then anxiety kicks in, and that floodlight constricts into a laser pointer. Suddenly your focus is razor thin, locked on to one single thing, the threat. All those other solutions and possibilities, they didn't disappear. They're just outside that tiny, intense beam of light. You're functionally blind to them. And what about your mental workbench? You know, the space in your head where you actually solve problems? Well, anxiety storms in and just clutters it up with all these threat-related thoughts. What if I fail? What are they thinking? What's the worst that can happen? There's just no room left to do any actual work. So let's just pull this all together. First, the amygdala hijack happens and emotion takes the wheel. Second, that shuts down your prefrontal cortex, so your rational brain goes offline. Third, your attention narrows to a laser point, so you can only see the threat. And finally, your mental workbench gets so full there's no space left to think. It's like a 4-stage trap.
So I really want you to get this. When you're in that state, you haven't changed. You're not broken. Your intelligence hasn't gone anywhere. Your brain has simply switched its operating system from thinking mode over to survival mode.
And that, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question, right? How on earth are you supposed to fight back when your own biology is stacked against you?
Well, the answer is you don't. And this is so important. Trying to reason with your brain during an amygdala hijack is like trying to run an app on a phone that's been turned off. It just can't work. So instead of fighting, you need a totally different strategy. You need a simple sequence designed to do one thing and one thing only: bring your thinking brain back online. This is the order that changes everything. Here it is, a simple 3-step process. Step 1, pause. Just one single slow breath. That physically tells your body the immediate danger is over, and it lets the amygdala start to cool down. Step 2, name it. Actually say the words, "This is anxiety." That simple act uses language, and language lives in your prefrontal cortex, which helps reboot it. And only then can you get to step 3, choose.
With the CEO back in the building, you can finally access your own wisdom and make a smart choice. And please hear this. This is the most important rule of all. The order cannot be reversed. You can't start with a rational choice because the part of your brain that makes those choices isn't working yet. You have to reboot the system first.
And that's exactly why so many other coping strategies fail right in the heat of the moment. Right? If a technique needs you to think about it to get it started, it's pretty much useless when your thinker is offline. The absolute beauty of pause and name is that they take almost zero brain power to begin. Once you understand this sequence, you completely change your relationship with your own mind. You stop being a victim of these automatic biological reactions, and you become the operator, the one who knows how to work the manual override. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. What's the very first situation, could be big, could be tiny, where you're going to try this out? To pause, then name it, and only then choose.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs it. This is Smiling Cottage. See you next time.